Hi everybody, I'm
Hi
Haley,
everybody,
and
I'm
I'm here today
Haley,
to talk to
and
you
I'm here
about
today to talk to you
Storysynth.
about
Hey Logan,
Storysynth.
Ink and
Hey
Stories.
Logan, Ink and
I know
Stories.
there's a few people here
I know there's
watching,
a few
so
people here
if you're
watching,
excited,
so
send us an
if you're
emoji in the
excited, send
chat.
us an
Oh
emoji in
good,
the
Logan's
chat.
there with
Oh
Carrie, so
good, Logan's there
there's
with
two
Carrie,
people,
so
one viewer,
there's two
two
people,
people, it's
one viewer,
exciting.
two people. It's exciting.
So yeah, Storysynth is an
Storysynth
app
is an
that
app
you can use to
that
create,
you can
make,
use
play,
to
and share
play
storytelling
and
games
share storytelling
online.
games online. And yeah, I'm going to talk about it in detail. And just quickly, a little bit about me. So my name is Hailey Cooperrider. My pronouns are she, her. And I work with a company that we started called Amble Studio. And oh, Dante Logan's getting feedback and hearing me twice. I don't know if that's specific to Logan. All right, I am testing. Fixed. Yeah. Yay, thank you, Logan. Yeah. And so, yeah, thanks, Dante. Easy fix. Yeah, so Amble Studio, we're actually a troop of 5 of us. You'll see Logan there, fourth from the left. And Kieri is the first one, and I'm in the middle, but you can see me. And we do applying games to the world of work to help people collaborate, where a lot of us are facilitators by trade. And so we've been using Storysynth in that context because we work with people who identify as non-gamers a lot of the time. And so getting them into a story gaming experience, getting them into like Roll20 or Tabletopia or any of the virtual tabletops is way too much for them. Driving a 3D camera, it's a lot. And that's similar to the reason why Randy Lubin, who created Storysynth, told me he created this. He really wanted to play games like For the Queen, or other simple prompt-based story games, stuff like what Ben Robbins does, like Follow and Kingdom and that sort of stuff, and make them. And he just thought it was overkill to have to load up a 3-dimensional virtual tabletop just to do. And so he started building this app that makes it easy to play story games online, but also to create your own new story games. So Randy's a designer as well, who makes all sorts of different. So what I'll do is I might put some of these links in the chat as well, so it's easy for you to click through and look on your own. So you can find Storysynth at storysynth.org. That's what I'm showing on the web right now. And that's your sort of portal to either play some existing games on Storysynth, to learn how to use it, or to actually get started making your own Storysynth game. So what I'm going to do in this presentation is take you through some of the basics, show you some examples, show you how it works, and then if we have time, maybe we can make a game together, or at least get started making a game together so you can see the process from scratch. And I guess my invitation looks like I don't have link sharing permissions. Okay, all right. That's not a big deal. You can see the link in my address bar on the screen. But if you can change that, Dante, that would be cool. So where was I? Yeah, I was going to, oh yeah, I was going to ask you if it's .org, thanks Logan. If you have a question you would really like me to answer today, please put that in the chat, and then I will make sure to weave that in at some point. Or at any point, interrupt me, let me know if you'd like me to stop and look at something. Okay, so at storysynth.org, it's really beautifully edited website with lots of examples. And I think actually this little graphic, oh no, it's kind of moving too fast for me to use it to instruct you. Oh wait, here we go. So it's online storytelling games that look like this, like simple cards that you can then kind of click through, and all these different kinds of formats that you can make. And this thing, so if you've ever used Google Sheets, the content for the game, you just edit it in a Google Sheet and you plug it into Storysynth, and everything that's in your Google Sheet is used to generate the game. It's also multiplayer. So what this is showing is that if you advance next card on your page, then other people will see it, that the card has advanced. So it's for playing. It's online. So like in a video call, you're on Zoom or you're you're in Discord in a voice channel. Everybody just has a link to the game, and then everybody can play. You don't even have to share screen because it's like Roll20 or something. You're all looking at in a sense the same virtual tabletop. So let's have an example of a game. So these are some existing games that are featured on the Storysynth website. If you make a game with Storysynth, you don't have to put it here. It doesn't automatically get put here. It's just it's a tool for you to use, but Randy's put a few games here as examples. So here's one game, Around the Realm, that Randy made. Tell the story of two companions racing around a fantasy world in order to win a wager. And if I click play game, that actually goes and looks at a spreadsheet and pulls in the data. And that includes, the images that it goes and finds. And it creates this little home page for the game. So right now we're on a home page for Around the Realm. And what this home page does is it gives you some basic information. And again, you're in control of what's shown on the home page. And then it gives you this, yeah, it is a fun one, Logan. I haven't actually played it, but I know Logan and Kiri have. It gives you this create a session button. And all you have to do is click join session. It gives you a name to create the room. I'll talk about that maybe later. But all you have to do is click join session. And then it's actually created a game. Now, I don't think I have the link sharing permissions. Well, let me try again. Logan can tell me if this link comes through. Did you see that one, Logan? So what I would do is now I'm in a game room, and if I click next card, then it actually starts moving through the content of the game. So each card is a row in that spreadsheet I showed you. And then when we're on our call and we're playing the game together, we can just take turns reading this. So, I might say, okay, take turns reading these cards. Whoever reads the card should hit next when they're done. Oh, I guess that's me. Next card. Okay, Bailey, my friend Bailey is here. Oh, hi, yeah, the pitch. Okay, in this game, you'll tell the story of two characters racing around a fantasy realm. And so we kind of move through the instructions together of the game. And then eventually we get through all that, we pick characters, and we get into the storytelling game. So you can imagine, if you're familiar with storytelling, how this would be. Yep, so you can't unfortunately see it for yourself. How this would be a way to play a game together with simple prompt-based story game. So a little bit more about the interface. So again, this is the next card button. This is the previous card button. Okay, yeah, great. So Dante's saying send them. So I just need to I don't have our chat open because I made it small. Where is it? There it is. So yeah, so if actually you click that link, you can join me in this game right now. And what we'll see if someone clicks that, let's see if somebody does, is that right here at the top of the screen, you can see this little people icon, and there's the number 1 next to it. That will actually increase to 2 to show that someone else has joined the game. And so there's not really like a lot of sort of privacy functions. It's security by obscurity. So whoever has the link can join, but you can be in control of creating a link with like a funny words at the end, so that these 3 words at the end determine that this is just your game. Once you've set up, so one person needs to set up the game, and once they've set up the game, they just copy the URL and they share it just like I did in the chat. There's also a menu up here, which you can actually control and add buttons to it, which we'll show later. But by default, it has some things like you can restart the game, copy the URL again, but it also has by default X-card functionality. So if you're familiar with the X-card, it's a safety tool where if someone at the table is feeling that they don't want the content to go where it's going because it's something that's a squick for them or a trigger, they can simply, if you're at the table, you'll have a card with an X on it, and you can simply sort of press, point at the X card, and then everyone agrees to move on. That's built into the app, where you just need to go up to the menu and click X card, and then an X card takes over the screen for the game. And even Randy's put this helpful little about the X card here. Oh, we do have a second player. I'm guessing that's Logan, but maybe it's Dante. But let's try that out. So you can see my mouse is here. Can the other player of the game click continue? Let's wait and see if they're on it, or if I put them on the spot. Oh, we have a third player. All right, either one of you can click continue on the X card. I'm gonna wait. Fourth player. All right, somebody's clicked continue. Okay, so then someone else could click the next card button and advance the card. Hello, hey, Whimsy and Metaphor, that's Lee, right? Hi, Lee. A fifth player. Okay, now we're getting into it. Be bold, click that next card button, and you'll see that I have my hands up. We'll see the game advance if you can click that. Yes, keep going. Here, I'll do it too. So you saw that it had that instructions bar, so you can actually designate which cards are instructions. And then in this game, so they're in transit. It has these phases of transit. So by a flying ship, the last surviving vessel from an ancient fleet. So this is how we're transiting, and then I would describe the environment and so forth. This game also has this fun thing called an itinerary, where it actually kind of keeps a journey of everywhere we've gone. And so we finish that one, and it actually automatically keeps like track of it and writes it in. So I think I'll pause there. That was just like a basic intro to Storysynth into a game. But basically the way it works is you keep just going through, following the prompts and playing the story game until you get to the end. And this game, I think this game might actually just, you go as many as you would like. I haven't played it, but yeah, so you can just keep going as long as you like. And it doesn't actually have an ending, whereas other games have an ending. So what I'm going to go and do now is go back to storysynth.org, just using my my URL bar, and show you in a little bit more detail how to make a game. So I'm just scrolling down on the site, which has all this useful information on it, and all these existing games. There is a grant program. There are still 12 micro grants available, or about a dozen, Randy said. If you're from a marginalized background, you can get $300 to make a game on Storysynth. So that would be pretty fun. Just learn and apply from the homepage. So create a new game. So one thing to know about Storysynth is it has what's called formats. And so if you can imagine that, if you've played a game like For the Queen, where it's just essentially a deck of cards that get shuffled at the beginning and then you draw from them, and then there's a last card buried in there somewhere, that means when you draw that, that's the end of the game and you do the resolution. That's what's called in Storysynth is the shuffled format. And so if you want to make a game similar to For the Queen, where it's a deck of prompts, you should use $300 US. That's a good point. And these days, that's a meaningful difference. You should use the shuffled format. And I'll explain a little bit more about what it means to select a format. There are maybe, I think, 10 different formats. The one I showed you around the realm is the phases format, because you go through sort of travel, then exploration, and then resolution of that location. And then that sort of finishes one scene, and then you move on to the next scene, and each scene has the 3 phases. And so if you want to build a game like that, you use the phases format. The hex flower format lets you explore a map. That's really cool. We'll look at that later. Okay. Just checking my notes to see. Cool. So to help you get started with these different formats, Randy's created these demos for some of the three formats that are actually, I think, three of the most different looking formats. So let's start with Shuffle, which is the simple deck of cards format. I'm just going to click View Demo just to get a sense of what's going on. So just like before, we've landed on a home page for the game. This is a home page for the demo of the shuffled format. So he's got some really basic stuff in here. But you can see, like before, it's got a title and an intro. And it's got here where we can click Join Session. And here are the random 3 words that it creates to give us our unique URL to invite you to the room. And actually, I'll show you this now. I can type and change that. And then when we click Join Game, it'll be Hailey's game. And so you can actually see that. It might be a little small, but up in the URL bar here, it's got this random string, which I'll sort of explain later why it has that. And then it says Hailey's game. And so that's how you know that this is unique and that your players will show up in your game. And same thing, if you click copy URL, you'll get that same URL. You can do it that way as well. But what I wanted to show you, so back here on the home page, you might have noticed that there's this little alert box. And this is specific. Oh, yeah, you didn't know that one, Logan. So there's this specific to the demo page that Randy's put on. This demo is powered by a Google Sheet. Click to view the spreadsheet behind this game, and then make a copy and start editing to design your own game. So if you want to make a shuffled game, you go and you look at this Google Sheet. And it might look a little confusing at first, but basically if you follow the instructions and fill out this Google Sheet, then you can upload it back to the website, and I'll show you where to do that, and it will populate your game. But what you do is you can actually use this as a template. So if you really wanted to make a shuffled game, the first thing you would do is make a copy. Now, why can't I make? Oh, because I'm not signed in. Okay, that's a little bit of a hiccup because I've used a incognito window here. I didn't really think this through. So what I'm going to do is open a new window, which is not incognito, because I think that's going to make this simpler. So I will switch when I'm sharing from. New tab. There we go. Switch window. So if I go to, I'll get Storysynth open again. So I'm going to go back and go to the shuffled demo, open the Google Sheet. And so now I'm logged into my personal Gmail account. Oh, it looks like someone else is here looking at it with me. Hello, Anonymous Dinosaur. Thanks for following along. And then if I go to, so if you're not familiar with Google Docs, maybe I should step back. So it's Google Sheets is a spreadsheet, much like Excel, if you're familiar with Excel, but it's fully online. So it allows you can collaborate in real time on spreadsheets, but they're all stored in your browser as opposed to being downloaded to your computer. Other than that, it functions pretty much exactly like Excel with a few small key differences that if you're a real Excel veteran will annoy you until you kind of learn the minor differences. But so it seems like in order to work with this, you will need a Google account. So Gmail, or just create your own Google account if you don't have one. But then you get opened up to the magical world of Google Docs, where I spend a lot of time. So then you can go File and then make a copy. And you can name it as, okay, let's call this MIGW 2022 demo of Storysynth Shuffled. So you can name it your own thing. So now this is our own game. And what I think I'll do now is I'll actually, start to walk you through how that different elements of the spreadsheet are used to construct your game. And especially one of the things that Storysynth I think is really good for is rapidly prototyping and testing games. Yes, Logan also spends a lot of time in the magical land of Google Docs. So it can be very easy with this tool to try some things out, get your game design moving, and then put it into the Storysynth app to then play test with your friends, even a partial play test. So let me walk through some of the anatomy of this spreadsheet. So you'll notice that there's, to begin with, there's 3 columns here. And also there's just, if you see these little black triangles and these little pop-ups that keep happening, that's where Randy's put a note to help you understand what these different things do. And so column A is the deck column, which mainly controls how your cards are sequenced. Column B is the header column, if we actually look at the card contents. So yeah, let me do it this way. So deck 0 is the instructions deck. So if you remember from the demo, let me join a session. So if you remember, when we start clicking right, we see that there's this instructions bar. So if you put a 0 here, then it tells it that's going to be instructions, and it should show the instructions bar. Column B is to put a header. So if you'll notice that there's this big text here, that's the content in column B of the spreadsheet. Welcome to this demo of the shuffled template. Let me go back a card. Welcome to this demo of the shuffled template. So that's the first card. And then you'll see, and then column C is the content, which is the smaller text. One player should hit next to move on to the next card, which is telling us to use that, which is also nicely blinking here to tell us to use that. So yep, similarly with the next one, we saw that it says 0 instructions. This demo is powered by a Google Sheet, and then it has this link. So I'll just show you again the next card. Yeah, this demo is powered by a Google Sheet. And then it says shuffled template sheet, and it is a link to that template that we opened earlier. You'll notice here that it's using HTML. So if you're not familiar with HTML, you don't necessarily need to use it to do a game, but it's helpful. So if you need to put a link into your content, or you want to use some bold styling or something like that, then you may need to use that. I think it also works with Markdown, if you know Markdown. But this text right here says ahref equals, this is just the HTML way to make a link. And this is the actual content, and then this is the link that that content was linked to. So I'm not going to rabbit hole into an HTML training session, but if you don't know HTML, it's learnable. To learn just a few basic tags, like how to make a link, is recommended. Yeah, and so then you'll notice that we went from 0 to 1 in this column, and that's saying this is the next deck of cards. And so what the shuffled format allows you to do is have multiple different decks of cards. Almost imagine if you took them out of the box and you had some that had a red back that said instructions, and some that had a blue back and said questions, and then one that had a purple back that said last card on the back. Then you wanted to have players kind of move through those decks, like the instructions first. Then you just use this numbering system to say that these are all the cards in deck 0, and these are all the cards in deck 1. Now, this is all written in a guide, which I'll show you, by the way. Maybe I'll just quickly do that now. If you go back to storysynth.org, Yeah, Logan says his favorite way to learn HTML is to copy it from the Storysynth template, which absolutely, like, and that's true of HTML and code stuff generally, is most people just copy stuff from other people who have come before. So just to give you, maybe reduce your anxiety about I'm telling you all these things and you have to remember it, it's all beautifully written down in this guide. So sorry, I clicked on that a little quickly. So from the Storysynth homepage, there's a menu at the top, and one of the places you can find the guide is there, and it really lays it all out for you in a pretty clear way. There's also a Discord community, which I'll make sure you have the link for at the end, which is really great to get help. And I know Randy's always in there answering questions. Okay, so where was I? I was going through our game, our W 2022 demo. So we use the column A, the deck column, to control the content and to control what decks we have. So we have an instructions deck in this game. We have a deck of prompts, and we have a deck. We have a deck which contains one card called the last card, the ending card, and that card always comes last currently. Now, one little thing about the shuffled format is that the zero deck, the instructions deck, all the cards will always appear in order. But every other kind of deck assumes to be shuffled. This is the shuffled format, so it will be randomized. So depending on every time you load a new game room, it will shuffle the cards in deck one randomly. So if we were to load a game, prompt A would maybe come third or maybe come fifth. So let's imagine our own game just to show how this works. So if I go, let's call this For the Bumblebee. So this is where I'll show you the other stuff. So this is confusing stuff at the top that says option and these funny things with capital letters in the middle. This is where you control things like the title of the game and how it looks and whether it has a button that can show information or not, all these sorts of things that you can do. There's lots of options to help you customize your game. If you go, oh, I really wish I had a place where people could take notes, or it's really important to me that there's a turn order for players. There's lots of stuff like that that you can add in, and this is where you control it at the top of your spreadsheet. So if I go, see, demo info is where you can, I think let's ignore that. That's for this demo thing specifically to tell people where to find the Google Sheet. So I'm just going to get rid of that, actually. We don't need that. All right, game title. It's not Shuffle Demo. It's called For the Bumblebee. And the story is we've been traveling with this bumblebee that we love very much, but also kind of is stingy sometimes and might, like it can be a little bit mean. And so we know that at some point on this journey with this bumblebee that we're protecting them. The bumblebees ask them to protect us, to protect them on this journey. At some point, the bumblebee a bird is going to try to swoop in and eat the bumblebee, and we have to decide, whether we protect the bumblebee. But before that happens, we're going to have all these moments where we talk about our relationship to the bumblebee and how they've treated us in the past. Okay, good. Logan's giving me laughs. So if I make the game title For the Bumblebee, and then the byline is just like an emotional journey about friendship and sadness with a bee friend. And then the game blurb, this is where I can say more about it. So this is a demo of the shuffled format using one deck of prompts. It's inspired by For the Queen with a honey flavor. And so already we have changed the game. We have hacked the demo of Shuffled, which was sort of a version of For the Queen, which if you haven't played it, you should try it. And so all I have to do now is take Oh, okay. Important step. I have to make sure that the spreadsheet is public. Again, this is all in the documents, but if you click the share button on Google Sheets, by default, your sheet will be private so that only you can see it. And Google has all these features to share it with just these people in just this way. But you need to make it public so that the Storysynth app can come and grab it and load up all the content into the app. And so what you need to go is click the share button and then scroll down to the bottom and look for this general access and click on restricted, and we're going to change it from restricted to anyone with the link. So that means that anyone with the link can share. And then I'm going to copy the link. And actually, I'm going to pass it to you, Dante, so you can post it in the chat. But it's done. It's been updated. I'll click done. And so now it's public. And if you could, yeah, just share that with the group. So actually, anybody can open this now and help me edit it if you're really interested in that. Okay, Logan has given me an improved tagline. Friendship isn't always the bee's knees. So I'm going to replace our tagline, our byline, with that. And then I will go back to Storysynth. Okay, so I've gone back to storysynth.org on the home page, and if you keep scrolling down past, we're in the Create a New Game section, and it's showing us these demos, more templates, learn how to make your first game. You know, there's links to all the help. But if you keep going, this is this section called Get a Playable Link, Upload Your Game. Now this is actually where you make your game real. And so we're going to paste what you do is you paste your Google Sheet. Oh, no, I just pasted the tagline in. So I'll go get the link again. I'll go back to Storysynth, paste the link in there, and select your format. So remember I talked about there being different formats like shuffled and phases and generator and hexflower. Well, just make sure you've got the right one picked. It defaults to shuffled. And then you click Upload Game. For the Bumblebee, our game exists. And then we can click Join Session. And here we are, but we haven't changed anything except for the home page of the game. So all of this is currently the same. So how would we make the game more like our own game? So we go back to the spreadsheet and we go, okay, let's look at, let's not worry about the instructions for now. They're going to be the same, but I'd really like to think about it. So talk about a time that the bee stung you. This is a very special bee that can sting more than one person. Talk about a time the bee brought you honey. Talk about when the bee showed you a beautiful flower. And how about talk about a time the bee let you pet its fuzzy bottom, and talk about it. What memory of you and the bee? Logan, I also need some. I need some sad or troubling ones. And then talk about a time the bee scared you because it was gone so long. Okay. Oh, geez, but I've run out of spots. So what am I going to do? Logan just gave me a really great example of another question. When did the bee have to remind you to beehive yourself? Very funny. So all I have to do is just add a new line, and there's lots of ways to do that in Google Sheets. I like to come over here and right-click on the column below and insert one row below. And as long as I make sure to put that this is in deck 1, and I'm not going to use these. I'm not going to put a header for each one. I'm just going to let the text be the only thing there. So I'm just going to delete that because I don't want those. And if you just delete it, it doesn't care. It just won't have those. And so now we've got 7 prompts in deck 1, and then deck 2 is our ending card. And so I'm going to call that, I'm trying to come up with a pun for the last card, but I can't. So we'll just call it last card. I'm going to change the name. You know, a bird is attacking the bee. What do you do? Okay, so now all we have to do is come back here and click restart and reshuffle. And so after we go past the instructions, oh no, okay, so this is a trick with this, is that you actually have to go back out to the home page. So you can either just sort of delete, that's too confusing, so I'm just going to do it this way. There are some shortcuts to this, but I'll show you the slow, clear way. If you want to add in more questions, go for it, Logan, directly to the sheet, but I'm going to keep going because I've only got 10 more minutes. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to grab the URL from this again, and then I'm going to click Upload Game. I'll click Join Session again. This will create a new room for the game. And then I'll go through the instructions. They're the same. Ah, there we go. There's our content. Talk about when the bee showed you a beautiful flower. So notice that that is not the first one here. That's the third one. So it has randomly shuffled these. And then you can go, we would go through all of them taking turns, and then the last card, a bird is attacking the bee, what do you do? Now, because this is based on For the Queen, where the last card is actually shuffled in, it has these options. You know, actually, I want to shuffle the last card in near the end, or I want to do that sort of thing. So that's an example of one of the finer details that's been provided for you. So I think with about 10 minutes left, I might actually, zoom out, like I've given you a lot of detail about how it works to make a game. And now I think I might just give you an overview of some of the features and some of the things that are there to support you in making games. Let me just check my notes. So yeah, for example, so if you're wondering, say, how we had the really beautiful Around the Realm game, or let's see, this is one of Amble's games, Green Hollow, which is again based on the shuffle template, but I'll use it to show you some of the things that that you can do. So I'm just going to go back to storysynth.org and go back to the load. So I'm going to load Green Hollow, which is our game that is designed for teams to use to do team building. It's a little bit longer, so it takes a minute to load. Let's give it a second. And so we have put our own custom background, so you have these cute hills and stuff. We've got our own logo. It's a tiny quest to change your village for the better and explore real teamwork at the same time. And then you click Join Session. And now, because our game is important for facilitators to have control over how the story is going, we have these chapter buttons, which is what's called an extension that you can add to your game by adding it to the spreadsheet. And that allows me to jump around. So sometimes I don't like during a workshop to go through all these instructions cards with everybody and make them walk through all this. I just explain it to them. So I'm going to jump straight to the setup. And that's where we get to choose characters. And so I teach them about the pause button. We teach them about life in Green Hollow, where they're going to do a project together. They choose the project. And then actually what we have is there's an Our Project box below. And we'll notice that down here, we've got, oh, okay, our project is going to be an art gallery. And I can type that in, and if I click add, everybody in the game will see that. And there's also a turn order. So let's say it was Hailey playing and Dante, and any of the players could type this, Dante and Logan. You'll notice that it highlights a player. That's how they know it's their turn to read the card. And also, you can have it so it puts the current player here so we can keep track. And then when I advance the card, okay, I've finished. Okay, it's Dante's turn. We've also got here like a list of characters, and we've used some HTML to make this nice kind of table and pull in these images. And then what we can do is in the turn order, well, okay, I'm gonna play Birch, and that can maybe help us remember our characters. And also, if you go into the menu, it's added this button called character options. So if we've forgotten the characters and their descriptions, it's got this little pop-up thing, and that's called a modal that you can, again, in the spreadsheet, you can add that and put that in to, give people buttons that they can easily access to remember. Here's all the rules for the game. We put that in, so if people forgot how the rules work at any time, they can go back and read them here. And we just put that into the spreadsheet. Cool. I thought I would have a hard time getting to my 45, 50-minute mark, but now I feel like I'm rushing. So apologies if I don't get through everything. If there's something you specifically want to learn about, please do put in the chat and I'll answer that specifically. So I think now what I'll do is I'll show you a little bit more of the different types of games you can do. So if I go back to storysynth.org, I just want to show you some of the awesome, fun things you can do. I think in particular, I really like, so these two other ones, the generator is really interesting. The generator is a game where you can just create a bunch of like different like building blocks of a prompt, and then it will serve up kind of a random combination of those different building blocks to respond to. So let me find this game, Ethelred's Academy, which is based on the generator format. And the generator is just a one-page game. So it's the Academy for Aspiring Heroes. And it's about telling silly stories about heroes that are going on a quest to get their certification in different skills. So if I create a session, you'll see that the game page has a lot of instructions on how to play, which you can read through together. But I'll just take you right down to the game. And so it says, it's like random roll tables, exactly. So the way this game works is the hero says, introduce yourself and then tell the committee which certifications you think you earned on your recent quest. And okay, here's all these 4 options for me of what things. I don't really like any of these, so I'm gonna re-roll this and see if I get a better one. Stealth. Okay, I like stealth. Let's see. I'll get etiquette. All right, I'm gonna choose stealth. All right, and then I tell the quest giver. So this is a game about basically telling a funny story. And then the people who gave the quest say, oh, but how did you do this? Or how did you do that? And it's a little bit of a storytelling game. And then the committee has to say, did you do a good job? And so we thought this game was really funny. We played it a couple times and we said, this is cool, but couldn't you have one for villains? So what we did was we went and got the spreadsheet for this game, which Randy's made available openly. We made a copy of the spreadsheet. And then we made the Umberdread Institute for Aspiring Villains. So a really great and easy way to, which Randy's featured on the homepage, how easy it is to remix. So our friend Beck made this really cool picture for the background. So you don't, if you can't do all that, don't worry about it. It's really about getting the content up there. but we have now a game which is a remix of Ethelred's, which is called Umbridred's. And it's more like things like homoerotic sword fighting, underling hiring, making a contract with a demon, commit a midnight murder spree. But essentially, it's the same game, and we just plugged in our own content that we thought was funny about villains. So that's the generator. And then I'm going to go back and show you the hex flower. So hex flower is based on this idea, which was popularized by Goblin's Henchman, of if you have this map of hexagons, and again, using the spreadsheet, you can populate the images that appear here. And the idea is that you can move around the hexagon in the game, or the hex map in the game, and then each hex has some content in it. So kind of like doing a story game hex crawl to explore a land. And so just to show the versatility of the different kinds of formats that Randy's built. But I don't think I have time to really go into that in detail, except I can show you a quick. So here's Tumbledown Grove. So we wanted to create a story game that adults could play with young people to explore feelings, to get kids familiar with using feelings language, talking about their feelings, but to embed that experience in a story game that they would enjoy. It's almost like a story, like reading a story to your kid, but there's interactivity in it. So if I select TextFlower as the format, and then here's our spreadsheet for Tumbledown Grove, and I upload the game, and it explains it. This is the homepage for the game with lots of explanation. It says it's a work in progress. There's an introduction where the child, it says you're sad, and you go and you hide in a tree, and suddenly you fall down and down the rabbit hole, and you find yourself in this new unfamiliar land. And then the orange prompts are where we invite the adult to ask the child to add things to the story. And then the child can go, okay, I'm here. This is happening. Their little meeple is here on this hex. And then here's questions we can ask them. Which way do you want to go? And they go, oh, I really want to go to the beach. And they can click on that. And then something new is happening. And here there's a magical fish that they talk to. And the fish is sad. So they need to bring another fish is happy. And they need to talk about joy in order to interact with the fish and then move on. So that's just one example of what you can do with Hexflower. I think I really wanted to talk about, before I wrap up, just more about the extensions and all of the different things you can do. So I've got somewhere on here. Randy has created a thing called the sandbox, where you can see all in one place all the different extensions that you can add to your game by entering them into the spreadsheet. So if I just somehow the colon got stripped out. All right. So the sandbox isn't really a format. It's just a place where he's put in all of the different extensions. So we had player turn order, which I showed you before. This is an inventory extension. So you can name these whatever you want. And then people can, if your game has something where people gain and lose a resource, or counts days or anything like that, you can create these really simple buttons to tick up and down. Yeah, they're heat, so kind of a survival thing. There's this inventory, which is just an editable list of, if people gain things through game and they want to keep track of it. There's a simple dice roller. Let's roll 1d4 and 2d20. It will give us a result, and that sort of stuff. To get the full sense of how to edit your game, though, I really recommend the docs. So the docs are located here, storysynth.org, and then you click Guide. And again, it has everything you need to know. I think I really need to wrap up soon. So the last things I wanted to show were that there is a Discord community. So I'm just going to switch what I'll do is I'm going to put a link to get invited. So if you want to find other people who are sharing their creations, I really recommend joining that, or you want to ask for special features to be added. I think I just added it. If you could put that in the chat, please, Dante. And then I'm going to switch my screen share. What's going on? There we go. Yeah, so I think I'm showing you the Discord now. So this is the Storysynth Discord that you can join. There's a show and tell channel where people are posting about games they've made. Here's the playtest channel where people are asking for playtests. Here's a feature requests where people are saying, could you make it do this, Randy? And he says, oh yeah, I'm working on it. If you're a coder, if you work with JavaScript, Vue JavaScript, then it's an open source platform. I've been working on it as a way of learning to code. So you can help grow it as well if you're interested in that sort of thing. Yeah, finally, I just wanted to mention again the micro grants. So I will just switch back to my browser. So if you go to storysynth.org and you scroll down here to the grant program, and you can click learn more and apply. And again, so if you're a designer from a marginalized background, then you can apply for $300 US to make a game. And partly because that's what Randy's trying to do is create something called, he's working on something to do with monetization so people can actually get paid. Don't worry about that so much. Really, it's all about just getting on there and creating a new game for Storysynth. So I think I've run over my time. I hope I answered all your questions. And yeah, jump in the Discord or hit me up on Twitter. I think my Twitter is there if you need help. Thanks, everybody. Let's call it there.